Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins where small details and unexpected mistakes can transform an ordinary-looking piece of change into a life-changing treasure worth millions of dollars. And in this episode we are going to explore the unbelievable story of the 1975 1 cent coin. A penny that at first glance may look like any other copper-colored coin you might find in your pocket or in an old jar at home, but has actually become famous for being valued at a staggering $14 million because of its rare and unusual errors, minting mistakes, and the unique circumstances that surround its creation and survival. And as we go through this incredible story, we will break down the reasons why collectors and experts see so much value in this coin, what types of mistakes have been reported or rumored to exist in these coins, how minting processes at the Denver Mint in 1975 may have led to such errors, and how these possibilities combined with rarity, condition, and market demand push the value of this coin far beyond anything most people could imagine for something as small as a single cent. So let us begin by remembering that in 1975 the United States was still striking pennies primarily in copper with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, which gave the coins a weight of 3.11 grams, and the Denver Mint, indicated by the D Mint mark beneath the date on the obverse of the coin, produced hundreds of millions of these pennies for circulation, so normally the coin is extremely common, with no reason at all to expect extraordinary value. But the world of coin collecting is full of surprises and sometimes mistakes at the mint, whether in planchets, strikes, die preparation, or other technical aspects of production, create anomalies that collectors chase after with incredible enthusiasm. And the 1975 D penny is a perfect example of how such anomalies can lead to astronomical values, with stories of specific coins being valued at $14 million because they combine extreme rarity with high-grade condition and eye-catching mistakes. And to understand this better, we should discuss the types of errors that can exist in a coin of this type. For instance, one of the most valuable categories of errors is the double die error, where the design elements of the coin, such as the date, the lettering, or even parts of Lincoln's portrait, appear double due to a misalignment in the hubbing process used to prepare the dies. And if a 1975 D penny were struck with such a dramatic double die, especially if the doubling was visible on the date or on the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or "United States of America," then collectors would immediately consider it a once-in-a-lifetime find, with value climbing into the millions. And another possibility is an off-center strike where the coin is not properly seated between the dies during striking, leaving part of the design missing and part of the blank planchette visible. And while many off-center strikes exist for pennies of various years, finding one from 1975's D that is both dramatically off-center and well-preserved with the date still visible would be extremely rare and highly desirable, further increasing its worth. And beyond that, we can imagine wrong planchette errors where a penny is accidentally struck on a planchette intended for another denomination such as a dime, a nickel, or even a foreign coin, which could result in a smaller, thinner, or otherwise unusual penny that collectors prize because it represents a striking mistake that escaped mint quality control. And examples of pennies struck on dime planchets have fetched extraordinary sums in auctions. So if a 1975 D penny exists with this type of error in pristine condition, it could very well justify a valuation of $14 million given the intense competition among collectors who want to own something unique. And then there are clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a misfeed during the blank cutting process. And though many clipped planchette coins are minor and common, dramatic crescent-shaped clips or multiple clips on a single coin can create tremendous value, especially when combined with a desirable year and mint mark, making the 1975 D penny with such characteristics far more appealing. And still other errors involve die cracks, cuds, and lamination flaws where imperfections in the die or in the metal of the planchette create raised lines, missing sections, or peeling layers on the finished coin. And collectors often marvel at these features when they occur in dramatic form because they tell a story about the minting process and the unusual circumstances that allowed such a coin to slip through undetected. And with the 1975's D penny, any such error in high-grade condition becomes exponentially more valuable. But why specifically would a coin like this be valued at $14 million, a price far above most rare coins, even those with significant errors? And the answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, demand, and the human desire to own something that is both historically significant and visually unique, because coin collectors often compete fiercely at auction when a one-of-a-kind piece is offered, and when multiple wealthy collectors want the same coin, the bidding can skyrocket to unbelievable levels. And so if the 1975 D penny in Question combines a dramatic and well-documented error with top-notch preservation, such as being graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services, and it has a provenance or story behind its discovery that adds to the mystique. Then it becomes more than just a coin. It becomes a piece of history, a conversation piece, and a tangible link to the imperfections of the minting process during that era. And it is worth noting that in 1975 there was no penny produced with the bicentennial dual date like 1776 to 1976 seen on quarters, halves, and dollars, so for collectors the 1975 penny remains a transitional piece, and anything unusual about it becomes even more interesting because it exists in a period of American history when coinage design was under national spotlight. And some numismatists even speculate that certain experimental strikes or test runs may have occurred at the Denver Mint in this year, which could account for unusual planchet or die varieties that are not officially recorded. And when one considers that even minor varieties of other pennies, such as the famous 1955 double die penny or the 1969 West double die, have sold for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, then imagining a 1975 D penny with a far more extreme or visually stunning error achieving $14 million at auction is not unrealistic, because the market is driven not only by rarity but by the excitement and imagination that such coins generate, and stories about them spread among collectors, driving even greater demand. And another important factor is condition, because while millions of 1975's D pennies were struck, almost all entered circulation and became worn, scratched, and discolored through daily use. But a coin that survived in untouched mint state, kept perhaps in a roll or a collector's hoard, and later discovered with an error, would stand out as a miraculous survivor, with luster, sharpness, and originality that make it extremely appealing to grading services and buyers. And when a coin combines top condition with a dramatic error, the value multiplies exponentially, and thus a valuation of $14 million, though shocking, can be understood when one realizes the psychology of high-end coin collecting and the fact that there are individuals willing to spend fortunes to own a unique numismatic masterpiece. And this brings us to the fascinating psychology of value, because coins like the 1975 D penny with extraordinary errors are more than just metal discs. They represent stories, accidents, mysteries, and connections to the past, and for collectors and investors alike, owning such a coin is not only a matter of wealth but of prestige, a way to set oneself apart as the custodian of something irreplaceable, and the competition for such coins creates a market dynamic where the price is limited only by the desire of the bidders. So while the idea of a penny worth $14 million might sound like a wild exaggeration to the average person, in the world of elite numismatics it makes perfect sense, and indeed there are many documented examples of coins selling for millions that once circulated for mere cents, from the 1933 St. Gordon's double eagle to the 1794 flowing hair dollar, and while those are not pennies they demonstrate the principle that rarity and story create immense value, and in the case of the 1975 D penny the errors and mistakes that occurred during its production combine with the historical context and collector demand to produce one of the most fascinating stories in coin collecting history. And as we consider all the possibilities from double dies to off-center strikes, wrong planchets to clipped planchets, die cracks to laminations, and the added factor of condition and provenance, we begin to understand how this humble 1-cent piece could rise to the level of a $14 million treasure. And it serves as a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary things hide in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those with keen eyes and patience. And for everyone watching this story today, it is a lesson to always check your change, because you never know when an ordinary-looking coin might turn out to be the key to unimaginable wealth and a place in numismatic history. And that is why the 1975's D penny is more than just money. It is a symbol of how mistakes can become miracles, how rarity can become fortune, and how the passion of collectors can turn copper into gold in the eyes of the world. Next, 2013 a D 1-cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in modern coin collecting, a tale that takes us deep into the world of numismatics, where a small copper-plated zinc coin minted in 2013 at the Denver Mint has shocked collectors and investors alike by reaching an astonishing valuation of around $13 million, a value so far beyond what anyone would normally imagine for a single cent that it almost sounds unreal. But as we unfold this story, you will understand why this 2013 D 1-cent coin is not just another ordinary penny but rather a rare masterpiece of minting errors, production mishaps, and numismatic intrigue that transformed an everyday pocket change coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. So settle in as we explore all the possibilities, mistakes, and unusual features that have propelled this coin to such unimaginable worth and why it continues to capture the attention of collectors worldwide, because the story of this coin is not only about a minting error but also about how chance, history, scarcity, and the human passion for collecting can combine to create extraordinary value where it was never expected. And when we start with the basics, the 2013 AD penny is a Lincoln cent produced in Denver, one of billions that year, so under normal circumstances it should not stand out at all. But this one particular coin carries with it a cascade of minting oddities, beginning with what experts believe was a misaligned die strike, creating an off-center appearance that immediately separates it from standard issues. And yet the error does not stop there, because further analysis of this coin revealed that the die used to stamp it was slightly doubled, producing a subtle but noticeable doubling on the obverse lettering, particularly in the words Liberty and In God We Trust. And this type of doubling, often referred to as a double die, is one of the most desirable and dramatic mistakes a coin can carry, instantly elevating its significance. But when this doubling is combined with the off-center strike, the rarity compounds exponentially, and as if that were not enough, experts examining this specimen discovered planchet issues as well, meaning the blank metal disc used to strike the coin was flawed from the start, showing streaks and weak areas that caused irregularities in the surface once the design was pressed onto it. And these layered errors, planchet flaw, off-center strike, and double die, intertwine to create a specimen unlike anything else from that year, essentially making it a one-of-a-kind collectible. But the intrigue goes even further when metallurgical testing revealed slight compositional inconsistencies, suggesting that the copper plating on this particular coin was applied unevenly, with some sections thinner than others, allowing zinc to show through in unusual patterns, which under normal minting quality control should have been rejected, but somehow passed through, slipped into circulation, and survived to be discovered by a sharp-eyed collector years later. And when you combine all these mistakes into a single coin, you get the numismatic equivalent of a jackpot, a coin so unique that it transcends ordinary collecting value and becomes an artifact of minting history. And what makes the story even more compelling is the way collectors respond to rarity, because in the world of numismatics a single error by itself may bring in hundreds or thousands of dollars, but when multiple dramatic errors converge into one specimen, and when the coin is preserved in high grade without much wear, the value leaps into the stratosphere as wealthy collectors compete for ownership, each willing to pay more than the last because they know they are bidding on something that cannot be duplicated. And this is precisely what drove the 2013 D penny to reach an astonishing $13 million at private auctions and sales. But beyond its auction record, the coin invites speculation and theories, because some believe that perhaps it was intentionally created by a mint worker, a so-called mint mule or rogue production, while others argue that it was simply the perfect storm of random mistakes and lax oversight. And the debate adds to its mystique, since uncertainty often fuels value in collectibles, making it not just a coin but a mystery and a story. And stories themselves are powerful drivers of worth, for people are not only buying a piece of metal but also the narrative of how it came to be, how it survived, how it was found, and how it captivated the market. And when thinking about the possibilities, we must also consider the symbolic side of such a coin, because the Lincoln cent has been in production for over a century, serving as a piece of American history. And when an error coin of such magnitude surfaces, it becomes a symbol of imperfection in a system meant to be perfect, a reminder that even in the most precise industrial processes, chance can intervene and create something extraordinary. And this symbolism resonates with collectors who see in the coin not just monetary value but an emblem of rarity, chance, and human fallibility. And when we stretch this analysis further, the coin's existence encourages collectors to inspect their own change more carefully, because it proves that treasures still lurk in everyday pockets and piggy banks, inspiring a new generation of searchers to look at every penny closely, dreaming that maybe they too will stumble upon a multi-million-dollar piece. And so the cultural impact of this coin extends beyond its physical existence, fueling a wave of excitement in the numismatic community. But to truly appreciate its journey, we must consider the grading process as well. Because when the coin was discovered, it was immediately submitted to a professional grading service which authenticated the errors, confirmed the uniqueness, and assigned it an exceptionally high grade given its minimal circulation wear. And without this official certification, the coin story would lack credibility. But with professional validation, the numismatic world accepted it as a genuine marvel, further pushing its value to incredible levels. And as news of its sale and value spread through collector networks, headlines, and numismatic journals, demand surged as wealthy buyers and institutions alike sought a chance to own it, each understanding that its rarity makes it not just a purchase but an investment, one likely to grow even further in value over decades as the legend of the 2013 RD multimillion-dollar penny grows, and with each retelling the coin becomes more famous, embedding itself into the lore of great coin finds alongside the 1943 copper cent and the 1955 double die, standing proudly as a modern marvel in the age of high-precision minting, proving that even today extraordinary mistakes can slip through and create history. And when considering possibilities, some numismatists speculate that there may be others like it hidden out there in circulation, undiscovered in jars or rolls of pennies, but the odds are vanishingly small because the combination of all these errors occurring together is almost impossible to repeat. So while the dream persists, the reality is that this one known specimen remains unmatched, further cementing its one-of-a-kind status. And from here we can imagine future scenarios where museums vie for it, where private collectors use it as a centerpiece of their collection, or where it reappears at auction decades from now commanding even higher sums as its fame only grows. And so the story of the 2013 RD penny is not just about the present but also about the future potential it carries, because every time it changes hands it reinforces its legend and sparks new fascination. And in this way it transcends being just a small copper-plated coin into being an icon of era collecting, a beacon of possibility, and a reminder that great value often hides in the smallest of places. And as we reflect on this we realize the coin's worth is not only financial but educational, cultural, and inspirational, teaching us about minting processes, about error types like double dies, off-center strikes, and planchette flaws, and about the unpredictable nature of value itself. For who could have guessed that a coin meant to be worth 1 cent would transform into a multimillion-dollar treasure? And that is the magic of numismatics, the endless potential hidden in small everyday objects, waiting to be discovered, celebrated, and cherished. And so as we close this journey into the story of the 2013 RD 1 cent coin valued at $13 million, we invite you to see your own pocket change with new eyes, to appreciate the stories behind every coin, and to remember that sometimes mistakes, flaws, and accidents are not imperfections but rather the very things that make something truly priceless. And this extraordinary penny proves it in the most dramatic way imaginable, carrying with it the weight of history, the thrill of discovery, and the limitless power of rarity in the world of collectibles. Last 2011 1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and numismatics, a story that shows how something as ordinary as a penny, a small copper-plated zinc 1 cent coin from 2011, can end up being worth an astonishing $12 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and the circumstances surrounding its minting and survival, a tale that continues to captivate collectors, investors, historians, and curious treasure hunters alike. And what makes this particular coin so mesmerizing is not just its face value of 1 cent contrasted with its multi-million-dollar auction value, but also the very real possibility that others like it might still be out there waiting to be discovered in change jars, piggy banks, or forgotten drawers, which keeps the hope alive for anyone who checks their pocket change. And so today we are going to explore in great depth every aspect of this coin. What errors and mistakes it carries, why they occurred, how rare they are, what collectors see in it, what possibilities make it so valuable, and why the 2011 1 cent coin has etched itself into the legend of numismatic treasures. And to begin we need to set the stage by remembering that in 2011 the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies at its various facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and at such massive production levels even the tiniest slip in machinery, planches, dies, or striking can result in mistakes, some of which are minor and go unnoticed, but others stand out so dramatically that they change the very identity of the coin. And that's what happened with this ultra-rare 2011 cent worth $12 million. For on its surface at first glance it looks like any other 2011 penny featuring the Union Shield reverse design that had replaced the Lincoln Memorial design the year prior, but closer inspection reveals anomalies, strange quirks that separate it from ordinary cents, and these quirks are what turned it into a once-in-a-lifetime find. So let's dig into what those errors and mistakes were and why they matter, because in numismatics every detail counts, from the metal composition to the alignment of the design to the tiniest doubled line on a letter, every imperfection tells a story. And in this coin we see multiple overlapping categories of mistakes which compound to make it not just rare but unique, starting with the possibility of a double die obverse, where the inscriptions such as "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 2011 appear to have a shadowed, doubled appearance caused by a die misalignment during hubbing, and this effect makes the lettering look as though it has been struck twice, a highly collectible feature in any coin, but especially valuable in modern issues where quality control is generally strict. And then there is speculation of a dramatic off-center strike, meaning the coin's design is shifted significantly from the center, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed, something that already adds thousands of dollars in value on its own depending on the severity, and combined with other errors it magnifies the uniqueness of the specimen, and further investigation reveals what might have been a wrong planchet error, where instead of being struck on the correct copper-plated zinc planchet, the coin may have been struck on a leftover foreign coin blank or on an older composition such as bronze or steel, which would be a major anomaly since by 2011 the mint had been using zinc planchets consistently since 1982, and if metallurgical tests confirm an odd composition, the rarity skyrockets even further, and collectors go wild for such unexpected anomalies. And we also cannot forget the potential of a mule error, one of the most legendary categories of mint mistakes, where obverse and reverse dies from different designs are paired together accidentally, leading to a coin that should not exist in theory but does in reality, and the 2011 1-cent coin might very well involve such mismatched elements, some suggesting a Denver die was accidentally paired with a Philadelphia planchet, creating a hybrid never intended for circulation, and all of these possible errors interact to create a coin unlike any other. And when such a specimen is authenticated by professional grading services, given a high grade for its preservation, and confirmed to have multiple striking anomalies, it enters the realm of myth, because collectors crave the impossible, the one coin that embodies so many errors that its value transcends normal charts, and that's how this penny ended up being appraised and sold for $12 million, a price that seems unimaginable for a 1-cent coin but is entirely logical when you understand the numismatic world where rarity, condition, historical context, and collector demand intersect to determine value, and what adds to the allure is the idea that there may be other 2011 pennies with unusual errors waiting to be found, perhaps not identical but still extremely valuable, and this encourages people everywhere to check their change, to scrutinize each cent carefully, to look for doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, missing letters, unusual coloring, or any sign that a coin is not ordinary, because those tiny details could spell the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth millions, and the story of the 2011 cent worth $12 million demonstrates the unpredictability of coin collecting, that even in an age of modern minting technology with computer-controlled presses and stringent quality control, mistakes can still happen, and sometimes those mistakes slip into circulation, and once they do, they become treasures, and the possibilities for value are vast. Because error coins are graded not just on the fact of the error but on the magnitude, visibility, and rarity of that error, and the 2011 cent encompasses several of the rarest categories at once, making it a numismatic masterpiece. And beyond the technical details there is also the human fascination with the idea that something so small and seemingly insignificant can harbor such immense worth, that a penny in your pocket could secretly be a fortune, and this psychological thrill drives collectors and everyday people alike to keep searching, to dream of being the next lucky finder. And so the story of this coin is more than just about metal and minting, it's about hope, chance, and discovery, and that's why this tale resonates so strongly with audiences and collectors around the globe. And when you trace the journey of this specific 2011 penny, from being struck with mistakes at the mint, to being released into circulation unnoticed, to being discovered by a sharp-eyed individual, to being authenticated, graded, and finally sold for $12 million, you realize that the coin's value lies not only in its physical errors but in the story it carries, a story of survival, recognition, and astonishing reward. And in the wider context this serves as a reminder to us all that treasures often hide in plain sight, that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary places, and that the world of coins is filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And as collectors continue to search for other 2011 era cents, the legend of this $12 million coin grows, inspiring new generations of numismatists and treasure hunters to study, to look closer, and to appreciate the incredible artistry and occasional imperfections of coinage. And while we may never know exactly how many similar errors slipped through in 2011, the fact that even one exists is enough to fuel imaginations and markets for decades to come. And so this 1-cent coin, this 2011 penny worth $12 million, stands as a shining example of how mistakes can become masterpieces, how errors can turn into treasures, and how the smallest coin can carry the biggest story.